Your brain forgets about 70% of everything new that happens to you every single day. German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus established this back in 1885, running experiments on himself. And modern research has confirmed his data to within a percentage point. Names, conversations, entire events, gone within a few hours. But one category of memories the brain stores with near photographic accuracy for decades: the moments when you felt ashamed. Neuroscientists have found out why, and the reason has nothing to do with how sensitive you are. In 1994, neuroscientist Antonio Damasio published a book with a provocative title, Descartes' Error. He studied patients with damage to specific areas of the brain, people who had retained their intellect and reasoning, but lost the ability to feel emotions. And he found something nobody expected. These people couldn't make decisions. The simplest choices, what to eat for lunch, when to schedule a meeting, turned into endless analysis that went nowhere. Without emotion, the brain had no idea what mattered. Memory works on the same principle. The brain doesn't store facts. It stores how you felt at the moment something happened. The stronger the feeling, the deeper the trace. This isn't a metaphor. It's chemistry. An emotionally charged moment triggers the release of noradrenaline and cortisol. The amygdala, the brain's threat center, activates. It sends a signal to the hippocampus. This is important. Hold on to it. Neuroscientist Elizabeth Kensinger spent years studying exactly this mechanism and reached a straightforward conclusion. Emotionally charged events are stored by the brain more accurately and in more detail than neutral ones, even when the person makes no effort to remember them. The brain does it on its own, automatically. But that only explains why shameful memories get recorded more deeply, not why they don't fade. In 1927, a young psychologist named Zeigarnik was sitting in a Berlin cafe and noticed something odd. Waiters remembered unclosed orders with unusual precision, but forgot them immediately once the bill was paid. She turned the observation into an experiment. She gave participants tasks, then interrupted some of them before they could be completed. The unfinished tasks were remembered almost twice as well. The brain keeps open loops open. It keeps returning to them, searching for a resolution that never came. A shameful memory is an open loop. You stumbled, said the wrong thing, failed in front of people, and in that moment, you had no way to fix it. The moment passed, but the loop stayed open. The brain keeps coming back to it, not because you're a masochist. It comes back because it's looking for resolution. And every time it comes back, it isn't just remembering, it's reinforcing. Neuroscientists call this memory reconsolidation. Every time you retrieve a memory, it briefly becomes malleable. And when the brain puts it back, it returns a little brighter, a little more accessible. A memory you replay over and over gets stronger each time, not weaker, stronger. You think you keep thinking about it because you remember it. The truth is, you remember it because you keep thinking about it. But none of this, not Damasio, not Zeigarnik, not reconsolidation, explains the strangest part of the whole story. Why shame specifically, not joy, not pride, not curiosity, runs this system at full power? Picture a group of people, 30, 40 of them. No cities, no institutions. The only protection from hunger, cold, and predators is the people around you. In that world, one thing mattered more than almost anything else: your place inside the group. Being accepted meant living. Being cast out meant dying. Not metaphorically, literally. In that world, a social mistake was a genuine survival threat. You said something out of line to the leader. You broke an unspoken rule. You did something that made everyone look at you with judgment. Your brain processed that the same way it processed the sound of a predator growling in the grass, as a threat, as an alarm signal, as a situation to learn from, immediately and permanently, to make sure it never happened again. That is exactly why shame and the fear of social judgment activate the same regions of the brain as physical pain. Neuroscientist Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA ran a series of experiments in which participants were excluded from a simple online game. They were just stopped being passed the ball. Brain scans showed that the regions activated in response to that social exclusion were identical to those that activate in response to physical pain. The same anterior cingulate cortex, the same insula. The brain literally sees no difference between being hit and being rejected. Rejection is pain, not figuratively, anatomically. This explains something important about why an awkward moment from years ago still produces a physical reaction in you. Your chest tightens, your face burns, you want to disappear through the floor. You're not recalling an abstract event. You're reliving pain, real biological pain that your brain carefully preserved for exactly this purpose, so you'd remember how much it hurt and never do it again. Scientists call this social evaluative threat. When your brain senses that you might be judged or rejected, it triggers a full stress response. Your heart rate climbs, cortisol floods the bloodstream, your entire body shifts into a state of alarm, the same system that responds to physical danger. Because to your brain, social danger and physical danger are the same thing. The threat is long gone. That moment is over. It ended 10 years ago. But your brain keeps processing it as an active threat, keeps pulling it out of storage, keeps causing pain over and over with the same intensity as the first time. Your memory is working perfectly, exactly as it's supposed to. The problem is something else. You're misjudging how much that moment actually affected everyone else. In 2000, psychologists Thomas Gilovich and Kenneth Savitsky from Cornell University ran an experiment that became one of the most cited in social psychology. They asked students to put on a t-shirt with a large photo of Barry Manilow, an artist the student audience considered the most cringe-worthy possible choice, and walk into a room with other people. Afterward, they asked the people who wore the shirt, how many people in the room do you think noticed what was on it? Participants guessed around 50%. Then the researchers asked the people sitting in the room. The real number was half that. The people in the room were too busy with their own thoughts to look at someone else's shirt. Gilovich called this the spotlight effect. We move through the world with the feeling that an invisible spotlight is constantly pointed at us. Every mistake, every slip of the tongue, every awkward moment, lit up in full for everyone present. We feel like we're the center of the stage, and we assume the audience sees it just as vividly as we do. The audience doesn't. Gilovich explained the mechanism simply. We start from our own perception and try to adjust it towards someone else's perspective, but we don't adjust far enough. Our own experience is so vivid and consuming that it's genuinely hard to grasp that for the other person, that moment was just background noise. That while you were dying of embarrassment, they were thinking about what to make for dinner. And even when people do notice your mistake, they forget it incomparably faster than you do. Psychologist Nicholas Epley from the University of Chicago studied exactly this gap between how we judge our own behavior and how others perceive it. His conclusion was direct. Observers judge other people's slip-ups far more generously than the person judges themselves. They see the context. They see it was an accident. They see the whole person, not one isolated moment. Only you see that moment in close-up. Everyone else caught a glimpse, if they noticed at all. This creates an absurd situation. You're replaying a moment in your head that the other people involved never even registered as significant. You're building an entire internal narrative around how you looked, what they thought, how it changed their opinion of you. A complete private drama, performed for an audience that already forgot they were at the show. Gilovich and Epley, in a joint paper, called this the asymmetry of social judgment. The actor and the observer experience the same event in fundamentally different ways. The actor sees a threat. The observer sees a minor episode. You are always the actor of your own shame. And you can never see the stage through the audience's eyes. Even knowing all of this, the spotlight effect doesn't disappear. You can read about it 10 times, understand the mechanism, agree with the logic, and still lie awake at 3 in the morning replaying that moment. Because knowledge doesn't switch the system off, it can't be switched off. All you can do is understand what it's doing, and why trying to stop it through thinking works less well than you'd expect. In 1987, psychologist Daniel Wegner at Harvard ran a simple experiment. He asked participants to do one thing, not think about a white bear, just don't think about it. 5 minutes. If the thought of the bear came up, press a button. Participants pressed the button more than once per minute on average. Wegner called this ironic process theory. When you try to suppress a thought, the brain launches 2 processes simultaneously. The first, conscious, actively searches for something else to think about instead of the forbidden thing. The second, unconscious, constantly checks, what if the forbidden thought sneaked through anyway? And it's exactly that second process, the one meant to guard against the unwanted thought, that keeps activating it. The monitor that was supposed to close the door keeps it propped open instead. Now think about what you do with an embarrassing memory. You tell yourself, don't think about this. Let it go. It was a long time ago. It doesn't matter. And your brain hears, think about this. Check whether you're thinking about this. Again? and again. Every attempt to push the memory out of your head makes it more accessible, more intrusive, more vivid. Wegener also found the rebound effect. When the suppression period ended and participants were allowed to think about the white bear freely, they thought about it significantly more often than people who had never tried to suppress it in the first place. A suppressed thought comes back twice as strong. The harder you tried not to think it, the more aggressively it forces its way back in. That's exactly why an embarrassing memory tends to surface most powerfully right before sleep. In the shower, on a walk, in moments when conscious control loosens, the suppressed material breaks free. The first process, the conscious monitor, stops running at full power, and the second gets free rein. You cannot stop this through willpower, literally cannot. The mechanism is built so that willpower makes things worse. The only thing that works isn't suppression, it's acceptance. Not, don't think about this, but, yes, I'm thinking about this, and that's okay. When you stop fighting the thought, the second process loses its job. It no longer needs to check whether the forbidden thought has snuck through, because it's no longer forbidden. The paradox is that the only way to stop thinking about something is to give yourself permission to think about it. That's exactly why people who can laugh at their own failures recover faster. Laughter is a form of acceptance, a signal to the brain, threat cleared, loop closed, we can move on. Research shows that laughing at your own mistakes reduces amygdala activity and decreases the intensity of the stress response. Laughter rewrites the emotional tag on the memory, from threat to safe. Your brain isn't a sadist. It doesn't keep these moments to torment you. It keeps them because it believes they're still needed, that the threat is still active, that the loop isn't closed yet, and the only way to tell it that everything is over is to stop fighting it. Right now, somewhere in your head, there is that moment. You know which one. It surfaced while you were watching this video, or it will surface tonight when you're lying in the dark. Your brain will open that folder again, hit play again. Now you know what's happening. 5 scientists from different countries in different decades studied different mechanisms, and all of them arrived at the same place. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was built to do, protecting you from social threats that no longer exist, using tools calibrated for a world that's long gone. You just have a very good memory for what your brain considers dangerous. The next time that moment surfaces at 3 in the morning, don't try to push it out. Don't tell yourself it's stupid and it was ages ago. Just notice it. Tell yourself, yes, I remember this. The brain is holding on to it because it thinks it matters. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe that audience forgot long ago. Maybe the loop could have closed a long time ago. Nobody just told the brain it was allowed to. Fighting that thought feeds it. Accepting it starves it. You've been remembering that moment for 10 years. You're probably the only one who still does.